Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome today to the race day for the 2021 Austrian Grand Prix from the Red Bull Ring. Hopefully you guys are doing well on what is a warmer and sunnier Sunday for me in my part of the UK than it was yesterday. And thankfully, in my part of the UK, no longer raining. But just to update you guys as to the weather at the Red Bull Ring, because I know there was rumours of rain for today's race. Now, I've seen the F3 race, and it was quite dull and overcast, but no real sign of rain. So, I guess we'll see. To be honest, at the end of the day, we still, of course, have another 3 hours until the race starts. So, there's still a chance rain could, come about, but it doesn't look as though it's going to happen. It's most likely just going to be an overcast Grand Prix by the looks of it, if the weather remains the same at the Red Bull Ring circuit. But yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well, and hopefully no matter what part of the world you're in and what time it is, hopefully you're having the best day you can possibly be having, given whatever your circumstances are. But of course, it is the race preview first in my schedule today, and let's get into previewing how the teams are going to do in this Grand Prix based on qualifying yesterday, but also based on a bit last Sunday's Grand Prix, because of course the race pace and who was quick, who was not from last Sunday will have an effect on this Grand Prix as well, without doubt. So I think we're definitely in for an interesting Grand Prix, especially with the grid we have, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. But let me get into the qualifying results first. So Max Verstappen, just like last week, will start on pole position. Lando Norris starts the race from second on the grid. That is his highest qualifying position ever. Previous best, I think, was third on the grid in 20... Maybe it wasn't third on the grid. I'm trying to remember if it was third on the grid. Third or fourth on the grid, I think, was his last best qualifying result. But I don't think he's ever qualified second. So I believe this is Lando Norris's best qualifying result of all time. And then Sergio Perez third, Lewis Hamilton fourth, and Valtteri Bottas in P5. Mercedes, as we'll get on to in a moment, I think Mercedes are in trouble today. They're not really going to be able to fight Max Verstappen unless Hamilton, for example, gets an amazing start and overtakes Perez and Norris within, say, the first 2 or 3 laps. Then I just don't see, realistically, how Mercedes are going to compete with Red Bull, with Max Verstappen today for the race victory. So yeah, 4th and 5th for Mercedes, and then you've got Pierre Gasly 6th and Yuki Tsunoda 7th for AlphaTauri. Even though Norris is 2nd, I would say AlphaTauri do have still the best midfield package, I think, out of anyone in that midfield pack. Norris's performance is, I think, a bit... how do I describe this? I think Norris is getting more out of the car than is actually there, put it that way. He is driving definitely at his absolute best right now compared to, last year or the year before. So, yeah, Norris, I don't believe his performance is indicative of how quick the McLaren car actually is. So, don't get ahead of yourselves if you are a McLaren fan or a Lando Norris fan, because I don't believe that they do have the pace to finish on the podium today. It's most likely going to be the podium fight between Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton, and Bottas. Let me just clear my throat a minute. There you go, that's better. And yeah, so I think AlphaTauri do have the best midfield car overall. And if they can finish in 6th and 7th today, then that would be a massive result for them, especially when it comes to the teams above them. And you never know, could start catching them. If they did finish in 6th and 7th, that'd be 14 points towards their World Championship. And then, of course, Sebastian Vettel qualified 8th, but he got a 3-place penalty for harshly blocking Fernando Alonso in the final corner. So Sebastian Vettel, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, he will start the race in P11, meaning that Mr. Saturday, who hopes it will be a great Sunday for him for once, George Russell will start the race in 8th position. Surely you'd be thinking from his point of view that surely today's the day, but I still don't think it will be, because something will go wrong. It will go wrong. I don't know what, but something will go wrong without doubt. And then you've got Lance Stroll 9th, Carlos Sainz 10th. Just want to point out, though, with Russell, that he could have actually gone quicker than Sebastian Vettel, because you see his Q2 lap time was quicker than his Q3 time. And if he did his Q2 time in Q3, then he would have gone, qualified in 8th place anyway. I mean, Sebastian Vettel also, his fastest time in qualifying was in Q2 as well. So, he could have gone quicker by, a 10th of a second. But it shows that Russell, in qualifying, did have legitimate pace. He didn't just luck into the top 10 and then, finished miles behind everyone else who was in that top 10. He had the pace to be ahead of the 2 Aston Martins, without doubt. And then, of course, you've got Lance Stroll. Like I said, he qualified 10th, but he will start the race in 9th. And then Carlos Sainz 10th in the Ferrari, Sebastian Vettel 11th, and then Charles Leclerc 12th. Ferraris tried to get through our mediums, but they just simply didn't have the pace to do so. Charles Leclerc did come out after qualifying and say that it was kind of the plan to not get knocked out of Q2, but to absolutely make sure, whether it was getting knocked out in Q2 or getting into Q3 on the mediums, to make sure they were not starting on the soft compound tyre. So, in a way, they've actually set themselves up for today's race in a better way, for a better strategy, I believe, than if they qualified, say, 7th and 8th on the soft compound tyre. So, it might actually, 11th and 12th, sorry, no, not 11th and 12th, 10th and 12th, if I could speak English, and say starting on the medium compound tyre, or maybe even the hard compound tyre, might actually be a better position for them to start the race from. So we'll see if that does turn out to be the case in the Grand Prix. Then Daniel Ricciardo was 13th, miles behind his teammate Lando Norris. He was a second slower than Norris in qualifying. And then Fernando Alonso 14th. As you can see, with his Q1 time there, Alonso probably would have, he would have got in the top 10, without doubt, if Sebastian Vettel had not blocked him at that point. And probably not just would have got in the top 10, he probably would have qualified up in 8th place. Because you can see his Q1 time was faster than the Q3 time of Russell, Vettel, and Stroll. So Alonso had the pace. It was just, he got really massively blocked by Sebastian Vettel, and has actually come out after qualifying and said, the race is basically over for us, which I have to say is very defeatist, because I think he has to remember that he does have a quick package there, the car with him driving in it, and he is still very quick around this circuit, as has been the case, this weekend. But I think he also has to remember that he will get to start on a more favourable tyre than the soft compound tyre. So he might actually be better set up for the race in terms of tyres, starting down in 14th. So Fernando Alonso can still finish in the points. He absolutely can. So I don't think he should count himself out of contention there. Antonio Giovinazzi 15th. Giovinazzi probably could have got ahead of Alonso, considering Alonso was blocked. As you can see, Giovinazzi, his Q1 time was quicker than his Q2 time. And his Q1 time would have been enough to get him into 14th, but this wasn't the case. And then in 16th place is Kimi Raikkonen, which, at least it's better than last weekend where he was 18th. Ocon 17th, another poor performance by Esteban Ocon, who still out-qualified by Alonso, despite Alonso having massive issues of being blocked. Nicholas Latifi 18th, Mick Schumacher 19th, and Nikita Mazepin in 20th place. I've got to say, the grid, I'd say the top 5, and then probably from 8th down to about 14th. I think we've got a very exciting grid in those parts of the grid. And I cannot wait for the race today. It's going to be a very good one, without doubt. So let's get into the teams. Mercedes first. Qualifying was very poor. I don't think they would have been expecting at all to get pole position. I think they would have been hoping that they could get, say, 2nd and 3rd on the grid, which, of course, is not what they got in last weekend's race. They did qualify 2nd and 3rd, but they did not start 2nd and 3rd, sorry. And they would have been hoping then that for the race, maybe with cooler conditions that we do have now, that they'd be able to come back at Verstappen and Red Bull. But with Norris and Perez in the way, I just don't see how Mercedes can win the race today. Unless Max Verstappen has a serious problem with his car or really beats himself, because that's the only way I see Max Verstappen being beaten is by him beating himself in this Grand Prix. I just don't see how Mercedes can win. I think they could still finish easily in 2nd and 3rd place with both cars. There's no doubt about that. That's definitely possible. But they want to win. They have to win. Because Max Verstappen and Red Bull have all the momentum. The last Grand Prix Mercedes won was the Spanish Grand Prix, which was, 7, 8 weeks ago? That's a long time. If you're fighting for the championship and you have, as good of a team as they have, 7 to 8 weeks is a long time to be going in a season without a race win. It really, really is. And especially considering there's been no summer break yet. Mercedes have really got to win one of the races, at least one of the races before the summer break. Because if Max Verstappen wins today, wins at Silverstone and wins in Hungary, then he is the clear favourite. He really is for the Drivers' World Championship. I think what Mercedes have got to do today, so of course, Lando Norris is also on the medium compound tyre, which will help him a lot in the first stint, especially compared to the midfield runners. He should be, by the time, say, he gets to, or by the time we get to, say, lap 25-30, because he'll be on a better tyre compared to Gasly and Tsunoda, who will start on the soft compound tyre, Norris should be clearly ahead of them in terms of time on circuit, and then should be able then to comfortably come home for probably another 5th place finish. But for Mercedes, I think really their target has got to be Sergio Perez in terms of overtaking anyone today, because, Norris, like I said, eventually they will overtake Lando Norris, because the McLaren just simply isn't quick enough to compete with the Mercedes or Red Bull over a race distance. So nothing Norris really can do over the course of the 71 laps. But I think, honestly, let's say by lap 10, Perez, Hamilton and Bottas have all passed Norris, and it's Perez 2nd, Hamilton 3rd, Bottas 4th. Then Mercedes, probably, to get the best result they can, are probably going to have to split their strategy with both cars. And I would say probably, having Hamilton do an overcut, which of course means go longer into the Grand Prix than Sergio Perez. And then Bottas does an undercut, which obviously means pit before Sergio Perez does. I've just seen as well Michael Fassbender's racing in the Porsche Super Cup race. That's great to see. Hopefully he does well. He is starting 32nd, so we'll hope he's in the Porsche Motorsport. I just was watching the Porsche Super Cup broadcast then, and I was very surprised that Michael Fassbender was on the grid. But there you go. Let's hope he does well. He is starting though again in last place and 32nd. Yeah, I think Mercedes, in terms of getting ahead of Sergio Perez, they've got to split their strategy there. And I would say for Lewis Hamilton, he may not like it, but he'll probably have to go a long way into this Grand Prix on that compound of tyre that he's on. He'll probably have to go at least 30 laps, I think, if he's going to be able to pass Perez. Say, if he pits later than Perez and comes out on fresher tyres, he's going to have to do at least 30 laps. And we know that Lewis Hamilton isn't always keen, unless his tyres are in good condition, which is not always, but unless his tyres are in good condition, he's not always keen on going super long into a Grand Prix on tyres that he doesn't really deem good enough. And as well, remember, the medium compound tyre he's starting on today is the soft compound tyre from last weekend. So, you know, it will be tricky to go that far into the Grand Prix and still have good pace, but he's going to have to try, because I just don't see how Mercedes are going to, in the first stint, pass Perez on pure pace, because I don't think Mercedes will have quite enough speed to just do that. They'll need to do something funky on the strategy. Like I said, either Hamilton pitting a lot later and then having a lot fresher tyres for the last half of the race, or Bottas trying to undercut his way past Perez that way. That's the only way I see them getting past Sergio Perez. So yeah, Hamilton probably going to have to do at least 30 laps, I think, to do that. And then Bottas probably should come in around lap 23. Because Perez, I would imagine that people starting on the medium compound tyre, ideally, because it is the soft compound tyre from last weekend, you want to be pitting around lap 25, and then going on to, say, the hard compound tyre, either for the second stint to then pit later on, or to go to the end of the Grand Prix. I mean, of course, if you can go even longer than that and make it an absolute guaranteed one stop, then that would be great. But if you're starting on the medium compound tyre, again, it should be pitting around lap 25, and then the hard compound tyre should go at least until lap 55, and then maybe some cars out there will go for a medium tyre again, or a soft tyre. It really could be a two-stop race today. I think that's definitely clear from the analysis I've given so far, and that what I've thought really of the strategy for this race, I do think is a very big possibility, because we're on the softest compound of tyres possible, even though it's not as hot today as it was last weekend. I do think there is a real possibility of a two-stop race today. I mean, we saw it with Perez. He did a two-stop race and almost got a podium, so not exactly a bad thing. We do a two-stopper here, and also you can't really lose out that much with a two-stopper here, because at least you can overtake and not get held up by other cars, because that is the biggest detriment to, pitting more times than other cars, is getting held up by traffic. But in Austria, that's not really that big of a problem, because we have, 3 DRS zones, and it is a lot easier to overtake here than other places. So I think, for Mercedes, going to have to split strategy there and hope that they can somehow get past Perez. But in terms of Max Verstappen, I'm afraid Verstappen is going to easily win the Grand Prix today. And let's go on to him now. And as long as Max Verstappen doesn't beat himself, as I said, then Max Verstappen should win the Grand Prix today quite comfortably. What he'll be hoping for is that Sergio Perez can finish in second, and even maybe hope that Lando Norris can finish in third, but I don't think that's realistic. I think Norris will probably finish the Grand Prix in fifth, which of course is where he finished in last weekend's race, of course, at the Red Bull Ring as well. For Red Bull, in terms of strategy, I think if Perez can go to, say, lap 25, that would be a good time to pit, and then he could definitely do a one stop, because we've seen Perez been able to eke out the tyres before a lot longer say past the life expectancy that we were told. So it's definitely possible that Perez, even if he pits on lap 25, can go to the end of the Grand Prix there. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if he pitted for a second time, depending on, of course, where he starts the Grand Prix. But I think for Verstappen, in terms of strategy, I think what makes it even better is that he'll have, I think, such a gap to, say, the rest, that he'll be able to go probably a few laps longer into the race on the tyre he starts on, which is the medium. And will be able to have then fresher tyres for the end of the Grand Prix because of the gap he'll have. So it'll actually end up being an ideal situation for him. Red Bull, I think, if I was to predict now who is going to win this race and who is going to finish where, I'd have to say now, I think Max Verstappen will win, and I do think Sergio Perez will finish in second place. I do think Mercedes will really give Perez a hard time, again, if they split their strategy and do an overcut with one car and an undercut with another. But I do think Perez will still have just about enough pace. And also remember, he does have that Honda power unit, which is so strong down the straights, and especially in that first sector where the majority of overtaking is going to be done. So as long as Perez can be enough ahead to, use that power to his advantage, then I don't think Perez will get passed on track by Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas, unless they have much fresher tyres and are able to swipe away that disadvantage that they have compared to Red Bull. But without doubt, Red Bull are the team to beat today, and I think they're going to be very, very strong in this Grand Prix. But now let's go into the midfield and what's going to happen with them. So, first off, Ferrari starting in 10th and 12th. They tried to get through on medium compound tyres. It would have worked out very well if they did, but they just simply didn't have the pace, which is fine. But in this race today, I think Ferrari will probably be pitting, say, between lap 25 and 30, say lap 27, 28-ish. I don't think Ferrari will be going as long into the Grand Prix, for example, as Alfa Romeo or Ricciardo or Alonso. I think they'll go a lot longer into the Grand Prix than Ferrari, because I don't think Ferrari have quite enough durability on their tyres that, say, McLaren and Alpine have. So, like I said, I do think Ferrari will not go as long as others into the Grand Prix. But, yeah, lap 27, 28, I think will be probably when they start to come in with the two Ferrari cars. And then, if they pit onto the hard compound tyre, they can definitely get to the end, but it will be tough to get to the end of the race from there. Ideally, if you're starting on the medium compound tyre, you want to be getting to, say, lap 35, really, on the medium before going onto the hard compound tyre. Because if you pit lap 30, then you'll have to do 41 laps on a tyre that, again, remember, was the medium compound tyre from last weekend, which was good for the first 25, 30 laps of its stint, but the final 10 laps, it was quite slow. And that's what I mean. It will be tough to get to the end on that kind of tyre. So, ideally, if you are starting, like I said, on the medium, you will want to go at least halfway through the Grand Prix before pitting. But I don't think, like I've said, I don't think Ferrari quite have the durability to go to, say, lap 35. I think it'll be most likely lap 27, lap 28 when the two Ferraris come in. And then I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Ferrari went for a two-stop. Say, went on to a set of hard tyres and then went to, say, lap 50, 55 and then pitted again for another set of mediums. I could see that happening for sure. Because, again, I don't think Ferrari have enough durability on their tyres to really be going 40 laps or so on the tyres. So, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Ferrari went for a two-stop. And I don't think it would work out that badly, because once they make that first pit stop, they would then have fresher tyres for really the rest of the Grand Prix compared to most of the people they're racing against, which is what they had last weekend and which is why they finished in 6th and 7th in the race. So it wouldn't actually be that bad of a strategy, honestly, if they were to go for a two-stop. And I do actually think it is quite likely, again, because of the lack of durability Ferrari still have on their tyres. But I think they should be, honestly, scoring points today if they do have the pace of last weekend. But I'm not sure they'll be 6th and 7th again. I'm just not sure they'll be that quick, and I'll get onto that later on as to why. Now, with McLaren, Lando Norris, of course, starting in second place. And because he's on the medium compound tyre, he will be able to do at least, I think, 25 laps, which if he can keep ahead of, say, Perez, Hamilton and Bottas for long enough, then he might be able to build quite a handsome gap to Gasly, Tsunoda, Russell, Stroll, the Ferraris, Vettel, and so on and so forth, that he won't have to really take that big of a risk in terms of when he pits from the medium compound tyre onto what I think will be eventually the hard compound tyre. So, yeah, I think ideal situation for McLaren, I think this is what they'll try to do, is hope that they build quite a handsome gap to the rest of the midfield, again, because they're still, say, ahead of Perez, Hamilton and Bottas, which is helping drive them further away from, say, the AlphaTauris. And then I think Norris will probably come in at least on lap 30, maybe lap 35 if he's got a massive gap to the rest of the midfield runners. And then that gives him a great chance of having, nice, fresh enough tyres for the rest of the Grand Prix, so he's not under threat from anybody later on. So honestly, I do think Norris will probably be able to accomplish a one-stop race today in the McLaren. For Daniel Ricciardo, if you look at last weekend's race, if he didn't have the technical issues he had during the race, such as overheating of the power unit and all of that, and losing he lost 3 or 4 positions during the first stages of the race. If that didn't happen to him, I think he would have finished in the points, because his pace was pretty good in the race compared to the other midfield runners, and he did go quite a long way into the Grand Prix and had quite fresh tyres for the end of the race. So I think he would have finished, quite nicely in the points, say 9th place, maybe 8th place even, in the Grand Prix. So I think Ricciardo, as long as he doesn't have those problems again, he should have enough pace to get into the points. But will he get into the points? That's the thing we've got to work out here. So obviously the top 4, I think, will be, as I've said, I think it'll be 2 Red Bulls, 2 Mercedes, and then Norris will definitely be in there. Gasly will definitely be in there. I think the 2 Ferraris will be in there. So that only leaves 2 more spots. And I'm going to go for Ricciardo to get one of those spots, and probably Stroll as well in the Aston Martin. And with Ricciardo, I think what he needs to do on the strategy there is probably needs to go, say, until halfway through the Grand Prix before pitting. Like I said, lap 35, that would be a good time, really. If he wants to have fresh enough tyres for the end of the Grand Prix, but also wants to absolutely make sure that he gets to the end of the race without having to pit again, then, like I said, lap 35 ideally should be when he pits. I could definitely see him pitting there around lap 30, because I think most of the people outside of the top 10, or people rather who qualified outside the top 10, and will start, say, on the medium compound tyre, I think most of them will pit around lap 30, because unless you have nothing to lose, or you really do have good pace, really, great race pace, then I don't think you'll want to be going super long into the Grand Prix on that tyre. I will say, though, I could see some people starting on the hard compound tyre, because that could be a very good, I think, strat going into this race. But yeah, I think Ricciardo most likely will do at least 30 laps on, say, the medium. Would be good, as I said, if he went to, say, lap 35, because that would give him, again, fresh enough tyres for the end of the Grand Prix, and would probably mean he would definitely then do a one-stop race, and then, hopefully, would have the pace for points, and I think he will, and I think he'll probably be a 9th or 10th, honestly, for Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. Hopefully, this time he can score points. And I think before we go on to the rest of the teams, let me now get into this, the sector time data, which we normally do, of course, get into on a race preview, and we'll try and analyze this best we can. And really, the reason I look at this before a race is because it gives us a good indication as to who will be quick in what parts of the circuit, obviously, and what to look out for. So in Sector 1, not a surprise that, Lando Norris, again, very quick in Sector 1. The McLarens are very quick down the straight, so it will be pretty hard for Perez, Hamilton, and Bottas to just, breeze past the McLaren. They will have to be super close, say, on the exit of a corner onto a straight, I think, to get the move done. But I do think eventually they will get the move done because they are so much quicker. But you can see, Mercedes, Honda power, very dominant in that top 10. You do have a Renault-powered car in 6th place, which is just shows you how quick Fernando was in qualifying. Again, 6th quickest he was as well in Sector 2, but as you can see in Sector 3, drops off because of that problem he had with, Sebastian Vettel holding him up. You can see, though, that the Ferrari-powered cars, most notably the Ferrari Works team, a lot better in Sector 1 and Sector 2, and I believe that Ferrari have probably taken some wing off to make them a bit more racy in a straight line, which should favour them well enough in the Grand Prix, but they're still, of course, not as quick as the Mercedes or Honda-powered cars. And then Sector 2, and this is very interesting when it comes to Verstappen versus the two Mercedes. So in Sector 2, in Sector 2, Mercedes are, a tad quicker than Red Bull in Sector 2. And Sector 2 is kind of the same, maybe a slightly longer version of Sector 1. It's really about power, and the only corners you have are quite slow. I mean, you do have Turn 6, which is a medium speed corner, but really it's about, the corners are quite slow, and it's really about power. But Mercedes were quicker just about in that sector compared to Red Bull and everyone else. But in Sector 3, last weekend, Mercedes were a tad quicker than Red Bull. This weekend, Red Bull are not just quicker with Max Verstappen, they are, a tenth and a half quicker? Which, in just that final sector, which is, Turn 7, Turn 8, Turn 9, Turn 10, really 3 real corners that you can make a difference. There's quite a lot of time to be gaining on the Mercedes. So, yeah, Mercedes, I think what they've most likely done, kind of similar to Red Bull, is I think they have probably taken a slight bit more wing off. Only a slight bit. I don't think it's going to be a massive bit of wing they've took off, say, compared to Ferrari to make themselves racier on the straights. But I do believe they've took off, again, a slight bit more wing to try and make themselves a bit more racy in today's Grand Prix. But yeah, McLaren with Norris looking very quick in all sectors. Also AlphaTauri looking consistently quick in all the sectors. Of course, they are still the best, or better rather, in the more power dominant sectors rather than the aero reliant sectors on the circuit. But yeah, Red Bull, I think, definitely should have the car today. Mercedes, probably the second quickest. And then, like I said, though, it will be tough to pass Norris, especially considering his tyres won't really go away because he is on the same tyre as Mercedes and also Sergio Perez. Anyway, we'll get into the rest of the teams now, and then I will make sure to come to you guys in the live chat for some final comments as well. So don't worry, I will come to you guys eventually. I just want to say as well, don't forget, guys, to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell, because I will be live with Nib in about 2 hours from now for the race watch-along for the 2021 Austrian Grand Prix. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel for that and hit the notifications bell. Also, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. Anyway, let's get into the rest of the team. So Aston Martin are going to be starting the race. Unfortunately, if you are an Aston Martin fan, they will be starting the race on the soft compound tyre, which is going to make life pretty difficult, I have to say. Now, people starting in the top 10, as we'll get on to AlphaTauri in a moment, people starting on the soft compound tyre in the top 10, and, you know, it's the tyre they qualified on, so it's already done 3 or 4 laps. They're going to struggle, I think, quite a bit in the race today. Now, Aston Martin do probably have the best durability when it comes to the tyres on the grid, so they might be able to get the soft tyres to go to, say, lap 25. But really, for most teams, if you're going to start the soft compound tyre, you're going to be pitting around lap 20, honestly, because it is the softest compound of tyre we have in Formula 1. It's a step softer than last weekend, and we saw the soft compound tyre only went to about lap 26, 27 last weekend. So really, around lap 20, maybe at the absolute latest 22, 23, is when the soft tyre runners would be coming in for a stop. But really, lap 20, I think, is going to be when they start to come in on the soft compound tyre. And then, unfortunately, if you do pit around lap 20 or just after, say, lap 20 on lap 22, you're not going to get to the end on the medium or even the hard compound tyre, because you'll have to do 50 laps on either tyre. And again, the medium of this weekend is a soft compound tyre of last weekend, and the hard is the medium compound tyre of last weekend. And of course, those tyres were clearly unable to do 50 laps. So I don't see how Aston Martin and AlphaTauri are not going to have their cars drop back. I think Pierre Gasly will have enough pace to finish in the points, for sure. But for Yuki Tsunoda, who is definitely, I think, the weaker of the two, I just don't see how he won't drop back through the field and lose out to, say, Ferrari, Ricciardo, Alonso possibly, even Russell and the Williams, who I know the Williams is nowhere near as quick as the AlphaTauri, but because Russell is starting, I believe, the race on the medium tyre, it's just a much bigger advantage for Russell than it is for, you know, for Tsunoda and for AlphaTauri. So, and I think the same, honestly, for Aston Martin, because, of course, they have both cars starting on a worn set of soft compound tyres. So I think for Aston Martin, because, though, they have probably the best durability in terms of tyres on the grid, I think they can probably get their tyres to, say, lap 25, that soft tyre, which would be good, because it would give them say, the best of a bad situation, considering that they are starting on the soft compound tyre. And then, if I was Aston Martin, I would then probably, from then on, you're going to have to probably do a 2-stop race, because, like I said, I don't think if you put on lap 25 that the hard compound tyre is going to do 46 laps. I just don't see it happening. So, really, if you put on lap 25 from the soft tyre, then I think the strat, honestly, should be to pit for medium tyres and then pit for another set of medium tyres to go to the end, which, of course, would be a classic 2-stop race. So, again, if you pitted on lap, say, 25 and went on to the mediums, and then for your second stop, you'd probably have to pit around, say, lap 50 for your second pit stop. And then that would give you, say, 20 to 21 laps to get, easily to the end of the race. But also, you would have probably soft enough compared to your rivals, but also fresh enough tyres to really close in if they need to on a points-paying position. So, yeah, most likely, I think Aston Martin are going to be on a 2-stop race today. It would be great, though, if they could do a 1-stop race, because that would, of course, help them a lot in the Grand Prix. But I think, again, most likely, people starting on the soft compound tyre, which is going to be the 2 AlphaTauris and the 2 Aston Martins. So those are the only 4 cars we know of that will be starting on the soft compound tyre. I just don't see how those teams can not do a 2-stop today. I just don't see how they can, given how soft the tyres are for this weekend. And for AlphaTauri, because they don't have the durability that Aston Martin have with the tyres, I think realistically, you're going to be seeing them pit probably first out of anyone in the entire field, say lap 20 to 22, maybe 23 at most, but most likely around lap 2021. And then because they'll have to pit earlier than Aston Martin, they'll probably have to go on to a set, say, if they want to get, nicely to the end of the Grand Prix, then they'll probably have to do the same strategy as Aston Martin, pit for a set of mediums, and then pit again for a second time for another set of mediums to get then to the end of the Grand Prix. Maybe they could put a hard compound tyre on, say for the middle stint, but I think they're definitely going to have to do a two-stop, because again, those tyres by lap 20 will be far gone, and they'll have to pit on that compound, especially with some of the long, fast corners we have around this circuit. And I think AlphaTauri will struggle, certainly with Yuki Tsunoda, to get into the points. Pierre Gasly, I do think, has enough pace to get into the points, but I don't think he will finish in 6th place, because like I said, I just don't think he'll have enough tyre life, and I think he'll have to pit probably one more time than, say, Ricciardo, Alonso, possibly Russell, we'll have to see. And I just think he will struggle a bit there. But yeah, AlphaTauri, good qualifying, of course. They do have a very quick car over a single lap. But because of their tyre choice, I just don't see how realistically they can get a strong finish today. I do think they'll get points though, but it won't be anything really strong enough to, massively celebrate this Grand Prix over. Now, for Alonso, of course, he was massively blocked in qualifying. He can still, in the race, as I've said, if he goes for the right compound of tyre to start with, he can definitely still in this race have a good Grand Prix. I think he'll most likely go for the medium compound tyre, Alonso, and pit, say, lap 30 ish. Alpine also another team, kind of like Ferrari. They don't have that greater durability on their tyres, so yeah, I think most likely they'll pit around lap 30, will the Alpine, Fernando Alonso. For Esteban Ocon, honestly, given how poor he has been this weekend and also last weekend, I would just stick him on the hard compound tyre and run him as long into the Grand Prix, really, as they can get away with. And really, if you're going to start the race on the hard compound tyre outside the top 10, of course, you'd want to be doing, say, at the very least, 35 laps. Probably 40, which would, get you... You'd probably be around 9th or 10th, because obviously, once F1 pits for their first pit stop, you'll probably be in 6th or 7th. Sorry, 6th or 7th, in the order, if you stayed out on the hard compound tyre. But by the time you come in then to pit, once the cars who have pitted have made up the time, then again, you should be around 9th or 10th. And then once you pit, and if other cars do a two-stop race, then there's definitely a possibility then of a points finish. But realistically, I don't see Esteban Ocon finishing the points. But like I said, I think they should stick him on the hard compound tyre, because I don't really see what they have to lose with Esteban Ocon there. And I think the hard compound tyre really could prove, you never know, to be a very good tyre for this race. And again, if he can do 35, 40 laps on that tyre and be in a good position when he pits, then you never know, he could actually do something pretty great in this Grand Prix. For Alfa Romeo, I think they'll probably, with at least one of their cars, go for the hard compound tyre to start the race with. Say Kimi Räikkönen. And yeah, I think Raikkonen will probably go at least 40 laps, maybe 45 laps into the Grand Prix to try and have much fresher tyres for the end. And if there are a few cars, say if the two AlphaTauris, the two Aston Martins, and possibly because Ferrari don't have quite the tyre life, say one of or both of the Ferraris also do a two-stop, then you never know, Kimi Räikkönen could be in a position to finish in the points, because, of course, stopping one less time will save you 23 seconds, but also he'll have probably, if he does go lap 40, 45 until he stops for that only pit stop, he'll probably have just as fresh tyres as as those cars that might do, say, a two-stop. So I think that's definitely the strategy they've got to go for there on Raikkonen. And for Giovinazzi, I would say probably start on the medium and then go to, say, lap 35-ish and then pit and then hope that he has enough pace towards the end to possibly get a point. But Alfa Romeo, I think will have good pace today. And I think they'll probably finish in 12th or 13th, but I don't think they'll get a point because simply, again, they are too far back on the grid to do so. Now, for Williams, with Mr. Saturday up in 8th place, George Russell, it's a very interesting race for him because, again, I don't believe he will score points because I just don't think it will happen because nothing ever goes right for the guy, whether it's him fucking things up or the team or the engine. It doesn't really matter what it is. There's always a problem, is what I'm trying to say, whether it's him causing it or someone else. And I just don't think he will get the points finish today. But if he is going to, then he is on a great strategy for the race because he is starting the race, as I said, on the medium compound tyre. So he should be going at least 25 laps into this Grand Prix. Probably, he'd be hoping to do, say, at least 30 laps, honestly, on that tyre. But probably it'll be, say, between lap 25 and 28, I think, his first pit stop. And then I think we'll have to probably then do a two-stop race. So he'll be one of those who just doesn't simply have the durability on the tyres, even though he's starting on the medium compound tyre, to probably get to the end of the Grand Prix, so on a hard compound when pitting around that time. So I think Russell will probably end up finishing, say, 12th or 13th or something like that. But I just don't see a points finish. But he is on the right tyre to start with. And as long as he doesn't get hit off the circuit in the early laps or make a big mistake, then he should have, again, good tyre life to definitely stay with Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri and possibly Gasly as well. You never know. But, yeah, realistically, I just don't see Williams finishing in the points today. And there you go, guys. That is the race preview. But let me just read out some final comments from you guys, and then I'll come to the end of the stream. Right, let's find some comments here. Let's find... let's go up a bit. I'm trying to find... Vian Kowalski, I think it is, comes up with a prediction of what he thinks will happen today. And he says Verstappen, Checo, Russell for his top three. Francisco Beta says he has a fun fact about Michael Fassbender, who, by the way, is still racing, thankfully, in the Porsche Supercup race, which is about 3 laps away from the end. By the way, the weather conditions are still overcast and quite dull at the Red Bull Ring, so I think we are in for just an overcast, dull, weather-conditioned race. Hopefully not a dull race. But he says, fun fact, he races in European Le Mans Series in the GT class with Porsche. Well, I do know, because I've seen like a documentary of him, driving the GT, the Porsche GT car. I think it was a couple years ago. He started getting into it, but I didn't know he was racing this weekend, which is, it's good to see. It's good to see that, he's following a passion of his. Right, let's find some other comments here. Thabang says, even if they split strategies, they just ain't got the pace. Verstappen last week was 8 to 20 seconds plus clear of Hamilton. Mercedes have to pull something because we know Red Bull has pace and pits covered. Well, in terms of the two Mercedes versus Max Verstappen, yeah, they do have the two Mercs covered, without doubt. But, like I said, when it comes to Sergio Perez versus the two Mercedes, I do think they definitely have a great chance of getting ahead of Perez. Because Perez is definitely weaker than, Max Verstappen. And Red Bull, yeah, they have a very quick car right now, but it's not dominantly quick, I don't think, over Mercedes. So I think against Perez, they can definitely, on strategy, I definitely think they can get ahead. It's just, how will they do so? Like I said, I think if they split their strategy, I think that'll work. I think it'll work well enough. I'm not sure if it will get them ahead of Perez, but I think it'll be their best chance, honestly, of getting ahead of Perez, because I don't see Perez being overtaken on circuit. I just don't see it at all. Because the Red Bull is simply too quick in a straight line. Right, let's find some final comments here. Tea Time, that's a good name. Daniel says he sits in cramped position in the car. He asked McLaren to provide a little more space, but denied. Well, that'll be denied because it probably affects the aero then on the car. Hello, by the way, to Aline in the chat, who asks, what about Norris? Do you think he can win? No. I mean, it'd be great if he could, and if he was up there battling, but realistically, no, he can't, because the McLaren just simply doesn't have the pace. The McLaren, if you look at last weekend's race, Norris was, a second a lap slower than Max Verstappen, basically, per lap. So, yeah, I just don't see how, Lando Norris can really race for either the podium, never mind the win. And that's why I say I think he'll finish in 5th place, which is still a good result. 10 more points. And if Ferrari don't have as good of a race as last weekend, then they'll outscore them and further build a lead in the Constructors for 3rd place. But yeah, I think, like I said, realistically, Lando will probably be overtaken by all three, Perez, Hamilton, Bottas, by the time he pits, which will be around lap 25-30. And then Norris will finish in 5th place. And Norris, like I said, he'll probably be losing a second a lap to Max Verstappen. And then probably will be losing, say, 6 to 7 tenths of a second per lap, at least, compared to Perez, Hamilton, and Bottas, who obviously this weekend are not as quick as Max Verstappen in his Red Bull. Has Yim asked when is the main race start? The Grand Prix starts in 2 hours and 10 minutes. And of course, like I've said, my race watch along will start in 1 hour and 40 minutes from now. So, yeah, don't forget to come along to that. And let's find one final comment, and then I think we'll come to the end of this stream here. Let's find one good one if I can. Local Vocal, interesting name, says, that's what I thought. Let's see if this championship becomes exciting or not by the time we reach Abu Dhabi. I will say, in terms of, Verstappen, and I'll end on this, of course, before we get to the race watch along later. Yes, Max Verstappen right now is looking very good. Yes, Red Bull looking very good. 18 points is a good lead to have right now. It's not a great lead. Max Verstappen is still not comfortable at all with that lead. And, there's so many races left. I mean, we've got 2 more races after this before the summer break. And then after the summer break, we have, 12 races that are currently scheduled? And even if there's a couple that are cancelled, they'll probably be replaced. So, yeah, there's 12 more races to go after the summer break, plus 2 more after this. By the way, Michael Fassbender, if you're wanting to know, finished in 24th place from 32nd on the grid, which is not too bad. Yeah, I think there's still a long way to go, as I've said, and still easily Max Verstappen can lose that lead of the championship. Could lose it today. If Verstappen retires from the race and Hamilton wins, Hamilton leads the championship then going into his home Grand Prix by 7 points. Do you know what I mean? It's still very close. It can still swing just like that at, the click of a fingers. So it's still very close. And I think people, yes, obviously are correct in saying that Max Verstappen right now is driving better than Lewis Hamilton. That's clear to see. And yeah, is looking good right now. But let's not pretend that Max Verstappen is, dominating the championship, because he really isn't. Yeah, he has won the last 2 races, and of course won in Monaco, should have won in Baku. And yeah, he probably could have won every race this season, but he hasn't. And Hamilton has had 3 race wins this season, and Verstappen has had 4. So it's still pretty close this season, and I still think there are many twists in the tail. I mean, look at Baku, for example. We thought Verstappen would be extending the lead of the championship by 10 points. He didn't. Then when Verstappen retired, we thought Hamilton would then take the lead of the championship, which would have been a massive moment for Lewis Hamilton. And really, I think if he doesn't win the title later this season, he'll look back on that and think, yeah, that was a massive opportunity missed to, get, say, a vital race victory there for Mercedes and himself. But I always look back to 2017 and 2018 because in those seasons, it was also looking good for the person going up against Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes and Sebastian Vettel. Remember, in 2017, Sebastian Vettel led the World Championship up until the Italian Grand Prix, which was, how many races? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. About 13 races he led the championship, the first 13 races. Now, Max Verstappen only took the lead of the championship after the Monaco Grand Prix, which of course was race 5. But the point I'm trying to make is that, yeah, you can look great in the first half of the season, but you can easily lose it all in the second half of the season. And like I said, I think in my preview, the pressure on Verstappen now, I mean, there's pressure, without doubt. There is pressure on Max Verstappen, but it will be nothing, this pressure, compared to what it'll be like in October when we go to Turkey, Suzuka, the American Grand Prix, the Mexican Grand Prix. The pressure will be 2 or 3 times bigger there than it is right now. Because right now, yeah, he's fighting for the championship. Yeah, he's looking good. But still, there are so many races to go that there are still, there's still no clear winner. And there's still nothing really to be lost yet, I would say, for Verstappen. Because, again, it could easily swing back in Lewis Hamilton's favour very, very soon. But if we start to get to the last 5 or 6 races and Verstappen is leading by, say, 15 points, then the pressure on him will be absolutely immense. And also, do remember, and the Red Bull team boss, Christian Horner, made a great point in saying this, that after, say, the Italian and Belgian Grand Prix, which is the first 2 races after the summer break, most of the circuits for the rest of the season suit Mercedes more than they do Red Bull. So also do remember that. And also, the next 2 races after this one, I think at least on race day, will suit Mercedes probably more than Red Bull, Silverstone and the Hungaroring. I think in qualifying, Red Bull and Verstappen will be very quick in the next 2 races and will be very hard to beat, but they can definitely still be beaten for sure. But again, in the second half of the season, there's a lot of circuits where I think Mercedes will be probably stronger than Red Bull, at least on race day, such as Zandvoort. I think Mercedes will probably have the better car there than Red Bull. Verstappen will also be very hard to beat there because, of course, it's his home Grand Prix and he'll be very, very pumped up for that. But also the Russian Grand Prix, Mercedes always great there. Turkey, I think Mercedes will be very quick there, definitely in the race. Maybe not Suzuka. But then definitely, Kota, Mexico, and then the final 2 races as well in Saudi and Abu Dhabi. So, Verstappen, yeah, he leads by 18 points, but it is not over at all. And still, I could easily see Lewis Hamilton winning his 8th world title this season. Because like I said, just like that, it can change around. And you guys know it. But yeah, the race watch along, guys. Now that we come to the end of the stream, the next stream, the race watch along, will be starting in an hour and a half from now. So don't forget to come along to that, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and for that content coming up later today. And don't forget as well to hit the notifications bell. And also don't forget, I will be live not tomorrow, later tonight at 7 PM UK time for the race review for today's 2021 Austrian Grand Prix. Yeah, guys, that's it for the stream. Again, don't forget to sub and hit the notifications bell. Also, don't forget to comment down below who do you think will win the race today, and finish where. But also let me know, what you think will happen, especially up front today in the comments section down below. As well, don't forget to smash the like button, share this video and channel everywhere you can, and don't forget as well to join my Discord server, link below in the description. We have nearly 500 people on that server, very active server over not even just over a race weekend, in general, it's a very active server. And also, it's probably the best place for notifications for videos and streams of mine. So if you do want that, then make sure to join the Discord server. There's a link below, and I'm sure a link in the chat as well. But guys, until my race watch along, which again starts in an hour and a half from now, has been me, Shazza HD. Goodbye.